right, all right, all right. Hello, Joel.
Hello. Glad to be here finally.
Indeed.
Welcome to an episode of You Can't Make This Shit Up. This is David Washington, your main host, and I'm Joel Hoxley. I'm just here to enjoy the ride because I'm telling you, the things that these young men and women come up with for us to talk about, I sometimes wonder.
Right. And today we'll be talking about the challenges that have been identified recently, well, for quite some time. The challenges that boys and young men are facing in society today. And I know that, some may say it's, feminism. Some may say it's just things are changing, times have changed, roles have changed. But we're going to jump into this conversation about the crisis in men. So this is You Can't Make This Shit Up. My point of view on this piece is that, as women have been more involved in the workplace, women have been held more accountable for their actions in our society, women's roles in sports, in college, university, and again in the workplace, that we're seeing the change in gender roles. And
we're seeing the change in gender.
That's true. The world is definitely changing. The world is changing, and it's kind of difficult for some people to navigate this. And in this particular topic, this article, it talks about some of the challenges that young men are facing. There's less young men entering into college. They're not performing as well as girls in school. We're seeing a growing epidemic in suicide among men, among boys, and we're seeing more and more that women are out earning men in
Don't tell women that.
our society.
No, please don't tell women that, because they still absolutely want to make sure that you feel that they don't make as much money.
Well, the numbers
there's
say
more
differently.
there are more CEOs. They're finally getting equal treatment. They're finally learning how to negotiate good contracts, and they're finally dominating the workplace. So yes, and they're dominating school. 62% of the 2027 class for the University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont. That's the capital, Burlington, Vermont. Oh, sorry, that's Burlington, Vermont. So 62% women in the university, and the person in charge, the provost that's in charge of trying to make sure everything is, balanced and equal, has done that very well until this point, because he said, I never looked at gender.
Right.
And now he's got 62% of his, 62% of the 2027 class is all women. So what's going on with men? And they're applying. They're just not being accepted at the rate because they're doing the diversity and everything else, but they don't care about the gender. Now, is that a problem?
With the introduction of Title IX and making sure that girls and women are included and given a fair chance to achieve in college and high school, is try to create more equity. Are we seeing that maybe those goals were achieved and maybe a little bit too much? We're seeing now, the U.S. women's national soccer team, earning and contract negotiations equal pay as the U.S. men's. And we're talking about the WNBA also, mentioning that they should be making, equal pay as the men's NBA teams or the NBA league, and wanting to, earn the same amount as LeBron James or the average player.
Well, that's a good point. I like to kind of look at that also, because this is a very liberal or progressive point of view. The advertiser used to pay for the amount of eyes that were on the sport, the amount of draw
Right.
that the individual brought. That's why we reached out to, LeBron James for, his endorsements on products and stuff like that, because we know he's idolized. He's got that gravitas that's going to bring people in. So now what women are asking for is a share of that money, because they're not performing. They're not performing at or dominating the attraction to get eyes on their sport. Now, if they could get eyes on their sport, then they would be getting that type of pay. So now we just this is just like, revenue sharing. Okay? We can't draw as much, but we should be paid as much. And I don't see how that's fair to the advertiser or to the male sports, but I understand that the female sports, they're working just as hard. I have no problem with that. Mm-hmm. They should be equally compensated, but that means they need to perform. They need to make a place out there where I'd rather go see the Pride play than the Orlando. Than Orlando. Like I should
Orlando
be.
City
You should
soccer,
be.
right.
You should be playing so well that I want to go see a Pride match over the Lions. Right. I mean, just absolutely. And I think they can. I just don't think they do. I don't know what it is. Women aren't very interested in sports. If they were, there'd be more eyes on their sports. NASCAR used to be the number one sport in the United States because women watched it.
Right.
Because drivers were men, and they picked their driver and they followed their driver, and it was like Target Corporation was on a car for several years because their demographic target audience is women around 40 years old, and that was what was dominating the sport.
Right.
Sports now changed. Football's now becoming a more dominant sport. Why? Because more women are watching it. Wherever the women go is where the dollars are. Because men are already watching sports. So this is where I think you bring up a real good point. But this is where I think performance needs to be the thing. You need to convince. You need to have PR. You need to have the people that say this is a great sport. I'd rather watch women's soccer than men's soccer in the World Cup, because I think they do a better job. But I enjoy the men's game much more.
Sure.
But I think our women for the U.S., they play harder than our men.
What about what's being reported as young boys and men in general feeling lost, feeling lonely, feeling excluded at the expense of women? How do we address that? 60% of suicides are by men. Self-deletion are by men. And the pressure to be the provider, the leader, the protector is no longer there if a woman is able to provide for herself. The whole, I don't need a man mantra. Where's the role for young men? Where's the role for men in general if women are saying, well, I can provide for myself, I can protect myself, I don't need a man to lead me? How can we bring young boys and men back from the loss, the shadows?
Oh, David, these are deep questions because from a conservative perspective, I mean, we truly believe in the family. Most conservative women want a role of bringing up, having children and bringing up children and having that family. I think divorce is, over the top a lot of women want to have that marriage, but they don't, once it's done, they don't want the commitment, the
Right.
follow through of the commitment. And the men, they're just, okay, well, they're out there to serve their women, not the other way around. Not they're out there to try to do the best they can, but they're not getting anywhere. They're not appreciated. That's the word I'm looking for. Men are not appreciated, and they're constantly criticized for making more money, doing this, and when you look at your paycheck and you go, how am I making more money than she is? The reason I make more money is because she had a baby and she was out of the marketplace while she did the maternity and all that stuff, and then I kept on working, so I made more money than she did. Even though when she comes back to work, she makes more money than I do. Don't look at the numbers as cut and dry.
Okay.
When you have, swings in your data, you need to use those swings, and you need to say, look, how do we compensate for the woman that goes out of the workplace, and we have to save her job, and she has to be able to come back to that job. I mean, we have laws that protect that woman at that time, but we don't necessarily have to pay her. It's a leave of absence. We pay her less money because she's not performing for the company. These are all very minute, they're fine-tuned, and men are feeling a bit depressed because they want to provide.
Right.
They want to be able to be that person, but instead they're being stuck into these little, nests of, hey, these men's groups are not as strong as they used to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Women's groups are dominating the Republican Party.
Are there any more safe spaces for men?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, the Boy Scouts is now the Scouts.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just don't get it. I don't understand it as much as I appreciate women. I think the world of women, I think their role is so much more important than a man's role.
Sure.
But that's because they give birth. They do more. They have more responsibility in it with their body, but we
in that
should
traditional sense, though, as a childbearer.
Yeah, I can't have a baby. I'm not going to go through that. Mm-hmm. I'm just as proud when my child was born as my wife, but my wife suffered, right? Mm-hmm. So that made me want to work harder for my wife. I wanted to provide more and better, and that's how I felt good.
It was your inspiration.
It did. It made me feel good. It made me go to work harder, and I come home, I was happier, and I could see my wife and now my child, and I told my wife, I said, if you want to go to work, you can go to work, but you do what you need to do. If I need to make more money, I'll make more money. If I have to work 2 jobs, I'll work 2 jobs. I just want you to be happy, and I want you to be able to enjoy raising our child. Our child needs you more than they need me.
It goes back to the whole traditional roles. And I grew up with my mom and dad both working out of the home. And as my brother and I got older, there'll be times where, my mom and dad will ask, how did we raise you guys? Did we do okay? And we were like, oh, yeah. I mean, as young kids, we would say, yeah, as teenagers, actually. It's like, yeah, you did fine. However, as we got older, I'm realizing now that I was a husband, I was a father, and I was the main breadwinner when I was married. And understanding the responsibilities of being an adult in this world and then being a man, I think back and unfortunately my dad passed away, but I do have those conversations with my mom, and she'll bring up once in a while. She's like, how did we do as a parent? And I said, you all did the best that you can. And she's like, would you have preferred that I had stayed home and raise you and your brother? And there were times where I would say, no, everything's fine. But again, as I gotten older and I understood, the roles, the traditional roles of men and women, I was like, something? My wife at the time stayed home with my boys, and I saw the difference. And for me, although the work was a chore and it was a special kind of burden, I embraced that burden. I did what I needed to do to provide for my family, and I took pride in that. And for men to have that sense of pride, to have that sense of obligation to fulfill, that leadership role for their family, the protector role, and then of course the provider role, for that to somehow slip away, or young men not having those role models in their homes or in their lives to model that, I think is what's missing. And then to order to kind of get back to that, if people want to get back to that, it's going to take one family at a time.
One of the books of the Bible
Yes.
that I find incredibly overlooked is Proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit and you're feeling depressed, or you're just trying to figure out your role in life, Proverbs is a great place to go. It'll talk to you about respecting your mom and respecting your dad and the reasons why you need to do these things, and give you pride in seeing what direction you're going. Because it's the traditional roles, but Proverbs right there is truly embracing humanity. It's talking about how humans can get along. This is to be a better society. You do these things. And then the whole book is about how to live together, man and woman, and groups and everything. It's basically giving you a guideline to say, yes, you're not going to like each other.
Right.
But you have rules that you should abide by to make it a better relationship. So we're not killing, Cain and Abel. We're not going down these roads. What we're trying to, these are the disciplines that we need to try to take.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, because I saw that old episode of Enterprise.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's 2125 is the year it's supposed to be going on. And I'm looking at how the Federation hasn't become, that perfect society, that utopia that they have in the later versions. But it goes to the Klingon, to the Vulcans, right? They had to come up with a way to deal with their emotions, because they were very violent race.
Sure.
Basically, if you look at it from whatever 52,000 feet up above, whatever it's supposed to be, if you look at it from a different angle, you start to see the Surah and all these things. That's Proverbs. It's their Proverbs. It's how they learned how to live together.
Right.
And they don't want to show their emotion, but they sure as hell have them.
And you bring up two good points. The first one is about living together, being able to coexist, to live together as a functioning unit to grow our families and grow our communities. That's a very good point that you bring up. And I think our society has moved away from that and saying, hey, you can do better on your own. The stereotypes of the strong, independent woman. And pushing that particular agenda or that particular mantra in our society. A second piece I want to bring up is I'm happy that you brought up Proverbs, because when I was in college, my best friend at the time, Shaw, we wanted to motivate one another, and we knew that there was a greater purpose for us, and for me, I really needed this, because I had really no idea I had no idea why I was in college. I just thought it was just natural. It's the next step after high school. My parents expected it, but one day it just clicked for me, and so every morning, just about, Shaw and I would, he was my roommate, we would wake up and we will say this particular proverb to one another, and I pulled it up, and I still use it to this day. And it says, Proverbs 6:9, how long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? And that pretty much, motivated me from my laziness, not just my physical laziness, but my mental laziness. And the 180 I did, despite leaving Lake Forest College, I still stayed in school at Chicago State, graduated early, went to the Peace Corps, got into politics, got into social work, behavioral sciences, and boom, here I am right now.
Now look at that again and read it one more time, because I want to point out what it does. Read it again.
How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep?
So you compare humanity, the human, to make you think like, what is the worst thing? Slug? Well, comparing me to a slug, is that what I am? If I don't, that kind of motivation,
correct,
doesn't exist anymore.
I agree.
It's bullying. No, that's not bullying.
No.
That's basically saying, look, compare and contrast, buddy. Either you get up and you're an eagle and you're flying,
exactly,
or else you're a slug and you're just waiting for somebody to eat you. You're just waiting for some creature to come along and eat you because you aren't doing anything.
In those first few years of college for me, I truly felt like that. No purpose. And again, like you're saying, we're not seeing that today. And I think with many of us men and many young men, they lack that purpose. They don't live intentionally. I believe that that's changing. We're seeing men understand that there still is a place for them. And it may not be here in America. Men are going their own way. You hear about the passport bros. They still want, relationships, meaningful relationships with respect.
I don't know how you date in this. I feel for the young people today. I feel for them because they don't know how to be intimate with one another in a male physical role or a male female role. They don't spend enough time together, and their mindset is every compliment, every gesture of goodwill is, he's trying to get me into bed or this or that.
Sure. Or she trying to get me into bed.
Yeah, and it's like it's these mental this like nobody knows the signals anymore.
Right.
I walk in. I like to try to flatter women. I can't. I can no longer flatter women.
Right.
I understand that if I try to flatter a woman by saying, "Oh, how you doing today, beautiful?" that's offensive.
Right.
Now I don't know why it's offensive, but you think I'm being sarcastic and you're ugly, or you think that I'm trying to say, "Hey, beautiful, come to the room with me." I don't have one. I don't have a room. I have one for my wife and for myself. I don't have time for anybody else. But the intent, what they think my intent is all wrong. I open a door for a woman. Look, I like Chicago because you got the rotating doors. I don't have to hold it. I don't have to hold it over. I just have to push it and then let the person come follow through. Right? To me, that's a gem.
I find that the older women, they're appreciative when I hold open the door. The younger women, they just kind of walk past and I'll say, "You're welcome," and they'll still keep walking. The appreciation just for the small things, and to take it further about the rules of engagement, the rules of dating. It's hard. It's hard out there. For you young people, it's just hard. It's a lot of work.
I blame it all on Dr. Spock. Okay.
I was a Dr. Spock baby.
So was I.
My dad was teased by my mother's side of the family for using Dr. Spock as his guide to raising my brother.
We don't need to discipline our children. We just need to treat them like peers and I
don't
guess
think my dad treated me like a
no, I'm just saying, like, You still had the corner, right?
Right.
We still had the certain punishments, but they would
Belt.
try to not hit you. But the belt works. I don't care what you say. The belt works. It does. But that's okay. The belt is now used in many different ways. If you go on,
Don't choke me out.
No, I was gonna make a bad comment because
Well, hopefully, I remember being the mentor, and I am involved in a mentorship program right now on the peripheral, and for young men and teenagers, and I like to mentor, other, entrepreneurs and things like that. Our interview with Commissioner Mike Scott, one of his claims to fame was being involved as a mentor and having a mentorship program in his community in District 6. So if we build upon those things and bring back, in the black community especially, bring back the family, and bring back the nucleus of our communities, the family. Maybe there is hope, for America.
there's hope for everybody. It's just we have to stop trying to outthink our opposition, I can't outthink a woman, because I don't think like a woman. And I think my problem is I try to think like a woman so I can understand if I'm going to be offensive or not. And
You're on your own with that one.
I spent too much time in my head. Look, I spent too much time in my head saying, what can I say? What can't I say? And you know what? I can't think like a woman. I cannot think like a woman.
No.
I think I know, and then all of a sudden I find out I totally didn't get it. Like, I don't want a gift for Christmas. That means I want an expensive, one expensive gift. I don't want you to go out and give me a bunch of crap. I want one expensive gift. No, you said you didn't want any gift. No, that means I want something expensive. Yeah. Look, I learned that. I've been married 36 years, and for the longest time, I took her at her word, and I started wondering why Christmas wasn't just like the same. It kind of like, I thought she said she didn't want anything. Took me a good 10 years before I realized she wants something unique, special for her.
Put some thought into it, right?
Exactly.
That's what they...
And they want you to know that you know them.
It's difficult navigating the relationships, and it's not going to get any easier. So,
well, my granddaughter's like my hope, because she's like dragging me to church nowadays. She's the one trying to find out what these different things are. She's truly, gone down this gender stuff and wondering about it. So there's hope. My granddaughter believes in biology now. I truly am glad about that now. Right. But she also believes in emotions and not treating anybody with disrespect. Guys, be brave. Do what you want to do. Go out there and be mechanics. And don't worry about the women that want to take those jobs. Go out there and do the jobs you want to do. Be as tough as you want to, but just don't look down on yourself. You have purpose.
Yes. Know what your purpose is. If you don't know what your purpose is, find out. Introspection. Improve yourself. Start with your mind. Start with your body. Start with your soul, your spirit. Be fair, firm, and consistent with everyone. But live life with intention. Mm-hmm. And the resources will be there.
Women, young ladies, stay off Instagram. Don't compare yourself to others. You're beautiful, no matter what you think of it. No matter what you think of your flaws, you're beautiful. To somebody out there, you're phenomenal. So that's my last word.
My final word is everyone treat each other with kindness and love, most definitely with respect. Whatever relationship you're in, especially your intimate ones, with a great deal of respect. Live with intention, have a purpose. I'm out.
Yeah, but I want to say one more thing because I just wrapped. 988, I believe it is now.
988.
988 is now, if you are in that space.
What's that?
If you're in that space where you're thinking about, hurting yourself or hurting others, or you're depressed, we've gone from a 911 for emergencies. Now you have 988. Do dial 988 if you need help.
Is that here in Florida or nationwide?
Nationwide.
Nationwide. Okay, I did not know that. And being the
well, as
mental health
veterans,
specialist,
yes. Every time I pick up the phone, they tell me how to get a hold of somebody if I'm. So veterans, that's a recording on there every time. So please, 988 if you're feeling down.
Yes, there are suicide prevention networks across the state. So that is very good information, Joel. Thank you.
Like, share. Think about interning with David because he can teach you a lot. No, honestly, guys. Tell us if we're doing good. Tell us if we're doing bad. Tell us if you want a subject that we haven't touched on yet. But thank you very much for joining us because you can't make this shit up, guys.
We're your political innovators. Jay in Washington. Take care.